West.
Today, I'm a mild-mannered reporter for a newspaper.
And Patrick Wheeler.
I'm a very dangerous man.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about. Sports!
You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work, show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt, and my Timbs. You know how I do it, I ain't playing with you, I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining.
Welcome into the Afternoon Sports Drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you on Friday, rounding it out here on 105.1, 93.1 FM, 1580, 1020 AM, and the Triple Play Sports Radio app. Got a good show coming for you today. Chris Becker from Ocala will join us at 3:25 to talk about everything Oklahoma State, which has been, that's kind of the thing is maybe, just maybe, time will heal some wounds. I love that we're coming up on the weekend. And I have to believe that these next couple days, we get a little bit closer to, that's 2 more days till maybe we start practices in football, and maybe if everything goes off without a hitch there, we can get back to actual sports. I don't know what I'm saying with all this is, we've seen it even with it didn't go away by any means, but when the news dropped about basketball, we kind of got a little bit of time there with days off in between, and we were able to talk about more stuff, and things changed a little bit, and we could get off that topic. I think that's going to be the case here, too, with the whole Chuba Hubbard, Mike Gundy stuff, which has, at least for today, kind of simmered. So that's definitely a good thing. But I got to say this, too. I've heard a lot of people chime in on Robert's show, and even, about ours occasionally. It's like, hey, we want you guys to get back to sports, quit talking about this stuff. And ever since I've come on the station, I've prided myself on being able to bring in, we talk about a lot of other things that are relevant, and usually can tie them back to sports for the most part. And I get the whole, you hear people, there's a lot of people who just want this Chuba Gundy stuff to just stop and just go back to football. And while I get that, is Chuba Hubbard not a running back on a football team? Yeah. It's not like we haven't completely ditched sports. I believe that, on the school that this station focuses on as well, and when we continue to talk sports and all that too. So, and let me say with this is, these would be the same people that if we hadn't talked as much about it, would be like, why aren't you guys talking as much about it? It's always that same type of person every single time. That's you never can make everybody happy. No, but we've talked a ton about sports that haven't even been happening right now.
Yeah, and I think this is also a good microcosm of the reality that the Chuba Hubbards of the world live in. We have the luxury. Fans have the luxury of saying, "Well, just focus back on football." Forget about the shirt and this, that, and the other. Just go back and focus on football. Well, for the black community, they don't have the luxury. They can't suddenly go back to being white. That's the thing we have to keep in mind is when you just spew get back to what it was, they don't want to, because the reason they want change is because the normal was not good for them. So the argument of get back to what it used to be, you've totally missed the purpose of the tweet and what's being changed within the program, and they're trying to push for across the university if you're just dismissing it already.
Yeah, and you're going to have that's the thing. We can't act like we're not going to have a football season or anything like that. We're going to have football, and we're going to have Oklahoma State football, and
knock on wood.
Yeah, with Chuba Hubbard and Mike Gundy. Is it going to maybe be a little uncomfortable at times? Possibly. Is the media going to make it that way? Yes, we already know that. But this is something that when it comes down to it, I do believe they are all at the point where it's, and you've even seen on Twitter from different players, it's time to focus on let's keep this up, but at the same time, let's keep the change here that we're trying to make. But at the same time, let's focus on our number one goal.
Yeah, because here's the thing people also need to keep in mind. This isn't going away. Because, first off, the local media hasn't even gotten the opportunity to do our interviews with Hubbard and players and Gundy and whatnot. So whenever we get that opportunity, we're going to have to ask, because we haven't gotten the opportunity to ask about this stuff. But the other thing you have to keep in mind is even when the season comes around and the local media is, they've flamed out all of that. Well, what happens when the week of Kansas? People are going to ask Les Miles, do you remember an instance ever in which Gundy had racist comments or whatever, maybe when he was on your staff and stuff like that? It's going to be, and I'm not saying it's right, but it's going to happen. Somebody, whether it's with the University of Kansas media, people who cover KU or whatever, or people, it could be post game where people, are going to ask in the post game after the game, asking that stuff. It's going to happen. Probably the reality is it's going to happen. Just be prepared for that. ESPN
every time. I mean, they'll bring it up. Let's be honest. National media will find a way to twist it every single time, and that's why I think, obviously Gundy, he's going to be sick of it. After a while, it's going to be like, come on. And even that's the problem to me is we know it's going to happen even after wins. Oklahoma State gets a win, and everyone's focusing on, well, why did you get the win? Well, because of this, and then there's that guy. How's everything going with you and Chuba Hubbard right now? I mean, it's like it's going to become such an annoying question and topic, especially if, which I believe by when the season comes around and we're a couple games in, Chuba will probably say something, at least I think, like, hey, we're fine. We're focused right now. We don't need any of that outside noise. And he's already been, when, for instance, the questions we played yesterday on ESPN, when he gets something asked to him like that, and he's even saying now, hey, look, we are focused on the task at hand here, and everything's being handled within. We're going to keep it that way.
Because here's the thing, and again, you may say this sounds stupid, but having been in the media for 15 years, there are a lot of stupid questions, and I already know that some of them are going to happen, and one of them, it'll be one way or the other. If you start the season 4-0, which would include, I believe you opened against Texas, if I remember right, which, again, they're a favorite to make it to the Big 12 title game, so if you knock them off, somebody, I know for a fact, somebody will ask, if you start 4-0, are the changes that you requested over the summer what's helping you guys, galvanize this team and come together for this great start?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you lose a game, the first game, whether it's Texas, if it's heaven forbid a non-conference, that question is going to be asked of, are you maybe more distracted by the changes than the actual game? It shouldn't be asked, but somebody will.
Yeah, and somebody will ask it even if Chuba has, to some people, would be a subpar game. I mean, I'm saying he has a 70 total yard game or something like that, and like, well, are things going on between you and Coach Gundy that's causing you to be distracted? Like there's going to be that type of stuff that keeps floating around. Those idiot reporters that will ask those questions too, they don't go away. I do got to say this also, though. I love every single one of our listeners, though. I'm not saying like when we talk about people complaining about get back to sports, but anyone that takes their time out of the day to listen to our show, whether it's 30 seconds or the whole show, like that's much appreciated. So don't get that twisted at all on there either. But I'm just telling you that this is the hottest topic. Unfortunately, this has been one of the probably the tougher weeks for Oklahoma State sports. I mean, probably ever. This is not an easy thing to get through.
As Woodard mentioned yesterday, the plane crashes.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just one of. Yeah. And
but that did not involve a death. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So. Right. Yeah. Good point. This is. I feel like we talked about this topic multiple times, but it keeps getting brought up. I'm still fully of the belief that we're going to have football, college and NFL. They had, apparently there was a report done where all they will say is one high-ranking big Power 5 official is what they will call it. Wants to stay anonymous, of course. Can't have his name attached to this one.
But that's how they word it. So we don't even know if it's
it says
commissioner or associate commissioner or an AD or an
anonymous high-ranking official at a Big 12 member school.
Okay, so
it is Big 12. Yeah, it's a school.
Potentially an AD or something like that.
Yeah, so probably something like that. Forecasted a 70% chance of an on-time start, but only a 30% chance of the season being finished. And this is coming in.
So this anonymous source is saying that he has a good feeling that they're going to start, but a bad feeling that they'll actually be able to finish.
They'll be able to finish the season.
Wow.
Yes. And I don't.
And that begs the question: if that's what you're thinking, is it safe to go forward with it then?
Well, but even then, it's like. I feel like the idea of starting the season even earlier never got enough enough discussion.
I think the difficulty was the fact that because you have your window is kind of like with baseball right now, your window was shrinking so quickly that, I mean, if you said that, hey, because that's the thing, if you push it up a month and say let's start the season at the beginning of August, that means players wouldn't need to have been allowed to start coming back probably in May.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. Like in May, if that had happened, could you have still pulled off the ideas that they're all doing now and the things they're doing about quarantining and all of that?
Right.
It's probably possible.
Well, and with if you would have brought people back then, with the amount of positive tests you're coming back, would that have also impacted, okay, maybe we just need to shut down and rethink this? Because maybe with the approach of we came back too quickly, where now it feels like, okay, we didn't come back too quickly. We got everything in place. We got the plans right. We just, we knew people were going to come back sick, and we're properly prepared for that.
And then that right there needs to be more of the focus, I think, not because there are going to be those people that when they see positive cases immediately say, and they already have, oh my gosh, we can't have a football season. We're already having positive cases. We all knew that was going to happen. But when you look at it this way, if someone's if a student athlete, football player, is going to test positive, wouldn't they rather test positive right now than in the middle of a season? I mean, let's be honest.
Right, but as Tom's brought up, okay, if they're getting it now, and we've seen that some people who've gotten it can come back down with it. When you institute the 20,000 kids back on campus, that increases their odds of possibly coming down with it. I'm not saying again that it's guaranteed, but the risk is higher then. But my biggest thing is, I'm not necessarily saying we don't need to have football season. My worry is, okay, what's going to happen? Like with Texas, I kind of mentioned it yesterday, just real quick, but right now they have 13 players, another 13 positive. 10 being quarantined because of basically being in contact with those guys. That's 23 players. And again, you're on scholarship, you have around 85. So, I mean, basically about a third of your team in Texas right now is quarantined. If that happens in the middle of a season for multiple teams, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, we keep this in mind. If there weren't as much testing going on, we definitely wouldn't find a lot of these asymptomatic cases. I mean, a ton of these guys are going to be asymptomatic. We know that now with the data. And when you look at it from a standpoint of all the students coming back, which if that's going to be the case, which it looks like it is at almost everywhere, fine. But if you're not going to, and I'm not saying I'm in favor of this because I don't know how you would actually regulate it. But if you're not going to quarantine players, and I'm talking about practice and then they obviously have to be in class too and everything, right? And all this, and you're not going to be testing all your students. It's like, look, how are we going to keep them away from this? You're just not going to keep them away from potential exposure. So I think we have to understand that as well. It's like, and that's why we talked about universities are ready and schools are ready to assume some risk with this. But then I think that they're so willing to have the college football season, they know they really have to, if we're being honest. That it's like, okay, let's get that now. Yeah. Let's see how many positive cases we get, and let's move forward from here.
And again, I get all this. I'm just thinking of it. Okay, everyone wants me to take a fan stance. Okay, if I'm a fan, do I really want? Let's say if 22 players at Oklahoma State come down with it, either test positive or have to be quarantined because of contact. Oh, and by chance, all 22 of them happen to be the starters.
Yeah.
Is it worth, as a fan saying, man, what could have been with the season? Yeah, the hype around the season. Well, what happens if suddenly it's derailed because all these players come down positive or connected to people who are positive, and you have to quarantine them, and because keep in mind, it's not like you're shutting down for a few days.
Yeah.
They're quarantining mandated for at least right now 14 days. That's 2 weeks worth of games that you're without all of those players.
Let's go to the phone lines. You're on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Go ahead.
Great stuff. You guys are nailing it. I think we're being missed. I think the experts, as bad as they want to play, let's say we go into the Texas game, we're 3-0, and all of a sudden 3 starters on the offensive line, 2 receivers, and the quarterback comes down tested positive. We ain't really going to go down there and play, or we're not going to. I guess we don't open with Texas, we end with Texas, but our first conference game. So I think you guys are right on. But the resident expert that when he speaks, he's like E.F. Hutton is Fauci. And Fauci's now telling Major League Baseball, don't plan any games after September. And now he told the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, you guys need to plan on a bubble.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, if he's telling pro teams that, what does that mean for the college? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Call. Yeah, I mean, anyone that knows me knows how I felt about the Fauci taking different stances on everything, and I get the whole data changes and his opinion's going to change, but when it has happened as many times as and that's the thing too, is that he's the guy that we've all listened to about everything and take the most serious about all this. We were told that at some point. So yeah, whenever he said football at first, I wondered if he meant college as well. He was talking about the NFL. I don't really think he's going to have much say when it comes to college football. A lot of this is going to be up to what universities ultimately decide, especially when the NCAA has given at least a start here for all student athletes to come back in the fall now to start workouts and all that.
Ultimately, it's going to, we keep forgetting that it's actually not going to come down to the NCAA. It's not coming down to the NFL. It's coming down to local governments.
Right, yeah.
That's ultimately what it's going to come down to.
And Fauci can say whatever he wants. It doesn't mean local governments are going to necessarily
because obviously we're seeing it across the country. Yeah. Some a lot of differing opinions, especially this week in Oklahoma with the rally taking place over in Tulsa. Yeah. Speaking of flip flopping, we've seen that just within the day.
I think that's what you're going to see too. Is we're going to get to our break here and get Chris Becker on, but I think that we have so many different, and what we've talked about so many times with the different ways football can happen college wise. Regional is almost going to seem like about as best a guess as now I can make when we're talking about, because when you look at different areas of the country still, we're seeing different places that are affected still more by the coronavirus and all that. That happens to be the case still when we're supposed to start up the college football season. Don't be surprised if the Pac-12 ultimately pulls the trigger and says we can't start right now.
Right.
Or what have you, the even smaller conference, not a Power 5. That could definitely be a real possibility.
And that's the crazy thing is we're running out of time.
We are.
Like if they come out on August 1 and say Pac-12 we have to the NCAA says we have to play or practice at least 6 weeks. We haven't been able to get on campuses yet. We're just going to scrap the season or whatever, or we're just going to do the conference season. Well, Oklahoma State, where are you at August 1 saying, whoa, we have a contract. Yeah. We are playing here.
Yeah.
We're not playing there. Like, what's going on? And then you're scrambling to find an opponent in less than a month. Yeah. That's the crazy thing is, I've said July 1 is basically when you need a definitive answer from everyone.
Yeah, you have to have some sort of, and it's tough because you're like, oh my gosh, that's a month in advance. But yeah, you got to know. I mean, just like Oklahoma State has to know if they're going to be able to play Oregon State or not. Like you said, by July 1st, and that's still probably a little late.
Yeah, because I think essentially by July 15th, if Oregon State hasn't started practicing, or I think the latest is August 1. If they haven't started practicing August 1, they're not playing.
Right,
and that's NCAA rule.
Yeah. It's still a mess. I think we're going to have football, but it's still a mess. We'll see what Chris Becker has to say. He's coming up next from the O'Colly here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
It's been a too long time with no peace of mind. I'm ready for the times to get better. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain, hoping to find a way out. I've had enough of this continual rain.
Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. Joining us now here on the Afternoon Sports Drive from the O'Colly, Chris Becker is joining us. Chris, how's it going?
Going great. How are you guys?
We're chugging along here, man. It's been, as you well know, a tough week for Oklahoma State sports.
Yeah.
Chris Becker with us, digital editor at O'Colly, host of the Triple Threat podcast. I know you also would cover college basketball at airball.com. Do a ton of content there. What was let's start with basketball, because I know that you were all over that and in reporting and everything when the punishments were handed down. Well, actually, let's ask you about the players that have decided to stay and those that have decided to go for Oklahoma State. I remember when this came out, I immediately said that I was pretty sure I figured Cade would be gone. What did you think about that whenever all these punishments were given? Did you think Cade was going to stay or go, like, first thought?
I mean, like many people, when I first heard that, these sanctions are happening, we were, postseason ban, all this, I thought the program was going to be in ruins. I didn't think Cade was going to. I honestly didn't think Cade was going to stay at all. I mean, Isaac Likely, I thought he was going to leave. All these guys who are potential NBA draft picks next year, I thought they were gone. I thought they were going to go somewhere, go one more year, play in the tournament, and get to the NBA. But what's happened with OSU basketball in the last couple of days really speaks to Coach Boynton as a head coach and his character. You have players returning like Isaac Likely, Donovan Williams, Aaron Flavors, and all these guys returning, and only 2 people have said they're going to transfer so far. And that's amazing, especially with the postseason ban on the horizon.
How do you, when you look at that, because you made a good point right there about them coming back really for Coach Boynton, it speaks a ton to him. How does that, in your opinion, help recruiting down the road when guys see this and say, wow, even when something like that happens, their players aren't going to go? That's how good that head coach is at being a player's coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps a ton. It speaks to the character and how much the players respect him as a coach and a man. And I was talking to Donovan Williams right after these punishments got handed down, and he said that Coach and just to check in on him and just to talk. And that's what people want. They want a friend. They want somebody they can go to and talk about everything, not just basketball. And so it speaks to his character, and it definitely helps recruiting a lot. He's a great recruiter as it is, getting Cade Cunningham in just his 4th year here, and just building this team that he has of, a whole bunch of high-ended recruits and all this. It speaks a lot, and it helps recruiting a whole bunch.
Chris Becker joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive with the O'Cauley and the host of the Triple Threat podcast. Were you surprised by Hitty or Yor deciding to head out?
I was surprised by Yor. I didn't expect him to leave. When this whole thing, when all these recruits started coming in, I thought that Hitty was going to leave at some point, especially when there's, back before Greg Brown committed to Texas, when there were rumors that he might commit here and, put us one over the limit. I thought, it does not surprise me that Hitty's transferring at all. He really he lost his spot in there with a whole bunch of the other guys, and, Boynton decided to go small with a whole bunch of guards. He didn't really fit. But Yor really surprised me because I honestly didn't expect him to leave. I thought he was going to stay, help be the big man that we needed down low because that's a spot on this roster. If you look at it, we don't have very many big men, and so that just leaves both of them leaving. Really leaves a big gap in this team that's otherwise really good all around.
Yeah, I'd say it's safe to say OSU basketball is getting ready to play a little bit of small ball this upcoming season. I got to ask, with all of these elements in place, and I'm talking about no fans being allowed for a long time, possibly at some sporting events, no sports for a long time, and then the allegations, the punishment, all that. If there are fans allowed in Gallagher-Iba when it comes to basketball season, do you expect a huge uptick in attendance this year for this team?
Oh, for sure. I expect it. Like you said, assuming we have a season and have fans allowed to be there, I expect to be Gallagher. I expect it's going to be full. I hope and I think. These guys deserve it. Mike Boynton deserves it. If you look back before he came here, this program was in ruin just 5 or 6 years ago, and people really didn't go to the games. It was kind of going along, and now we're here. And last year we saw a decent uptick at the beginning of the year, and it kind of fell off towards the end because the team stopped performing a little bit. But, this next season, if people are allowed and Cade Cunningham's there and all these high, potential NBA talent, and Cade Cunningham's probably going to be the first pick in the 2021 draft. And then, Matthew Alexander Moncrief, assuming he stays, the number 1 player in Canada. All these high-ended guys, if they stay, people are going to come watch them. It's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. And Boynton's built something special here.
It seems like it's a long time ago now, but it really wasn't that long ago when players like Jalen Green announced that they were heading into the G League. Did that ever worry you that Cade Cunningham might think, I have a real shot here to make a lot of money if I head to the G League?
Before the punishment was handed down, it really didn't bother me. I wrote an article. I wrote the piece for airball.com about how I don't really think it's all that it seems, just because you don't play that many games and all that you get you don't get that experience you get in college against some of these other guys who are going to be going to the NBA with you. But now that we have a postseason ban, if Cade does decide to leave, I'm not going to hold that against him. And it wouldn't surprise me if he did go to the G League. I don't think he'll go to another college if he stays for college. I think he'll be at Oklahoma State. But if he does decide to go somewhere else, I think he'll go to the G League. And it's a good way. He's going to be the number one pick probably no matter what. So go make the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, and then go to the NBA and have a career. So it wouldn't surprise me now if he goes, but definitely before the punishment surprised me if he went G League.
Chris Becker here on the Afternoon Sports Drive with us. What was your initial thoughts to the response of when Eddie Sutton passed away? It seemed like there was a ton of positive response from people around the globe that respected that man.
Yeah, I grew up my whole life, attending games and being around Oklahoma State, and I've heard so many stories about Eddie Sutton, and I respected him as a coach, a man, everything. It really hurt Oklahoma State, just as a family. OSU prides themselves on their whole fan base being a big family and a real homey environment here in Stillwater. And losing one of your own always hurts, but this one hurt even more, just because Eddie Sutton was such a great influence around the community and helped bring OSU basketball to the next level when he was here. And he'll always be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now, we all know he got in later than he should have, but that's definitely something we can all look back on and be proud of now. Let's look at what's happened recently here at Oklahoma State. Were you surprised when it all came out to see Chuba initially take it to Twitter?
Yeah, yes and no. When I first saw the picture posted on Twitter, I was kind of shocked. I was like, I don't really know why this is a big deal or whatever. It seems like they were asking for something to happen, more like pushing it, like, hey, this should happen. And then when Chuba tweeted about it, I was like, you know what? It's a good thing to talk about. It needs to be talked about, and you always have to stand for what the person thinks is right. And should Chuba have probably gone to Gundy first in person? Yes, but you gotta. I mean, I don't hold it against him to go to Twitter. I stand with Chuba. I don't really hold it against him for going to Twitter.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's some people that have definitely, the stances maybe changed a little bit from where they originally thought with all that. I'm sure, did you see Chuba on First Take yesterday?
That kind of, when Gundy posted that apology video and all these players came to his defense, like, yeah, this is Che, he's supporting Gundy again, I think a whole bunch of fans just thought, everything's back to normal. But when Chuba yesterday said that their relationship's still a work in progress, I think that's perfect. Because nothing's going to change overnight. Chuba was clearly mad, and he was hurt. He was personally hurt by the Gundy wearing the shirt, and Gundy taking that stance and all that. And so it's definitely going to be a work in progress. And I think that it could possibly last into the season, and hopefully it doesn't, and hopefully the change happens like Gundy's promised, and they're able to rebuild that player-coach relationship.
I think that's definitely something that's going to happen. I don't know what you think about this, but for me personally, I'm kind of thinking that Coach Gundy he's in a tough spot just to coach now. I don't know what you think about that, but I feel like it's going to be tougher to get back into that normal ebb and flow that all those players were used to this. That's Coach Gundy. What he says goes here. I mean, I feel like it might be a little bit of a different environment.
It's definitely going to be something that, the environment's definitely going to be different. He's definitely going to have to be like, he's going to watch it. He's going to have to watch his step and, watch what he says and all that. And he's definitely going to have stuff on his mind, and coaching is not going to be on the forefront. And I think that's going to be a problem when, assuming we do have the season because of the COVID-19 pandemic and all that, saying we get there and the season starts, I don't think winning is going to be on the forefront of his mind. It's going to be, trying to rebuild some of these relationships that may have been fractured in these recent events.
Chris Becker, digital editor at O'Calley, Triple Threat podcast host, joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. You kind of brought it up there, but in your full, honest opinion here, are we going to have, first, I'll ask you two questions here, but first, are we going to have college football this season?
If you would have asked me that, last week, I would have said it looked like we were going to 100% have it. Everything seemed to be getting back to normal, but now, I'm sitting here in Stillwater, and we have, I think it's well over a 200% increase in cases just in the last week. We were at 0 cases last week, and now we're at over almost 150. And so now that this second wave pretty much here, it's looking down and more bleak as we get closer and closer to August and September and October and into the start of school and start of football season. And like they said when the pandemic first started, the NCAA president said that if students aren't on campus, football probably won't happen. So I mean, if we're getting up to closer to August, and these cases still are climbing and climbing, the chances of students being on campus are more and more bleak.
Is it even really kind of worth it if you're expecting the potential for 10, 15, 20 players to come down with it in the middle of the season, which then you have to worry about contact tracing as well, and possibly a third of your team being sidelined for a 2-week period? I mean, at that point, is it almost even worth it? I know the money involved, but at a certain point, if you possibly have to shut down your team for an extended period.
Yeah, it's definitely going to. I mean, people are going to have to start weighing the risk versus rewards, like they do with a whole bunch of things. Obviously, football brings in most revenue to any athletic department across the entire country, and for OSU, it's no different. I think it's well over 50% of our revenue comes from football, and if we don't have football, obviously it's going to take a hit, and sports are going to have to be cut. We've already seen that with some Division I schools, and it would suck. But at some point, you're right. You have to ask yourself, is this worth the risk to take for some players to come sick and, God forbid, a severe case of coronavirus that's not asymptomatic and, they're actually showing symptoms and possibly hospitalized because of it. So, I don't think if we're nowhere near a vaccine by that point, I don't think there's much of a chance to play football, just because, you don't want to take the risk of, us playing, say, Oregon State first week. They're coming down from Oregon. One of their players, asymptomatic, hadn't been tested in a couple of days and got it on their flight here, and then we play the game, and then a whole bunch of our team test positive for it. Then they're done for 2 weeks, and you only have a limited number of players on the team. So at some point you got to just think to yourself, do we wait until we figure out a vaccine for this?
Chris Becker joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Even if they decided not to have students on campus and they went to, let's say, all distance learning, do you think it's possible to have a football season with no students on campus? I know what Mark Emmert said, but let's say that like Mike Bowlesby said at one point too, he thinks that's something that could be weighed.
Yeah, I almost think that it'd be smarter if they say there's no one on campus, no normal students allowed on campus, and you only have football players here. I don't see a problem. I don't necessarily see a problem with that. Obviously, they're still in the city of Stillwater. And so if they go off campus to, say, Chick-fil-A, Cane's, go get food or go get groceries, and they come in contact with somebody who has it and come back to campus and spread to the rest of the team, well, then that's bound. That's probably bound to happen, unfortunately. But I've talked to a couple of the football players who are here, just as a friend, just as knowing them, and when they get tested, they're locked in their room for until the tests come back. So if they pick up testing and keep testing and testing and testing them and keep them locked in their room, then possibly, but I don't know how viable, locking college students and teenagers into a room is for days on end until they can go get food at the facility or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's still likely that we have a season, but I'm not sure how likely it is.
Okay, so if we do have a season, will there be fans at Boone Pickens in your opinion? And if there are, who's going to get first dibs at tickets here?
I honestly, as of right now, sitting here right now, I don't think we'll have fans for at least the rest of this fiscal year, and maybe into I don't know. We might have to go 2-3 years until I don't think we should have fans inside these stadiums. If we want sports back, I don't think fans should be here just because we don't have a vaccine, so it's not safe to have everyone do a Gallagher-Iba or Boone Pickens. It's just not safe to have all these people packed in there. But if we do have fans, Texas is kind of saying they want fans in stadiums and all that. If we do have fans, I'd assume season ticket holders from the previous year will get first dibs, and then possibly students. I don't know how that would work, but I'd assume season ticket holders probably get first dibs on those tickets, especially if it's a limited number.
Last thing here before we let you go, talk about a little bit about your podcast, Triple Threat Podcast, what all it entails and where people can find it if they want to listen.
Yeah, it's on right now. It's only on SoundCloud, but the O'Calley is putting stuff on. I think we have 7 different platforms that we're putting these podcasts on, and Triple Threat. I started it during football season, so really just previewing the football game. Saying who to watch out for. Talking about that. Really analyzing the team that we're playing to let other people know who we're up against and all that. And because OSU fans, you're going to watch your team, and you're not going to really know these guys like East State or you might know Tulsa or Oregon State, but you're not going to know deep into them. So I kind of dive into those teams. And when football season ended, I did it with basketball. And now I'm starting to start it back up, but there's no football or stuff to analyze. So it's going to get back up. So SoundCloud's probably the best way to find it.
All right, there you go. Chris Becker joining us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive from digital editor at O'Calley. He just talked about his Triple Threat podcast. You can search that and find it on SoundCloud. Chris, thanks for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Chris Becker. You can follow him on Twitter. He actually has a unique Twitter name. I almost said it earlier. It was Chris Becker, but that's not actually the case. You have to switch out the C with the B and the B with the C on the first and last name there if you want to follow him on Twitter. There are probably a bunch of other Chris Beckers that were already taken, so make sure and do that as well. Appreciate him joining us and giving us some insight on Oklahoma State. I know that's a tough time to have an Oklahoma State football podcast during all this right now, too. There's only so much you can talk about. So when we come back, we will get into some Major League Baseball. Man, we thought everything was looking good, then all of a sudden maybe not so good. We'll talk about all of that. Mark McMillan, I don't know if a lot of people really remember that name. He played for, I think it was for Alabama. Had some interesting comments on Mike Gundy on ESPN. We'll talk about all that, and we'll get into some NFL later as well. All still to come here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
I don't wanna
Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, 1020, 1580 AM, 93.1, 105.1 FM, Triple Play Sports Radio app. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you on Friday, wrapping up hour number 1. Chris Becker just joined us. Appreciate him. Give us a lot of good insight on OSU football, basketball, everything going on right now. Speaking of OSU football, yeah, Mark McMillan he used to play in Alabama. He went on an ESPN show yesterday, had some words about Mike Gundy. One topic he brought up, which is something that we've all talked about a little bit, but it's still kind of interesting here to think about, is even if all this is ultimately settled, which it looks like, we're definitely getting closer to that, he said, quote, "I'd imagine it's going to be very uncomfortable for Coach Gundy to go into an African-American household now and recruit these players," unquote. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about too, is that really going to be the case though? Because maybe looking at it from that perspective where it's like, I wonder if he can go in there and he's recruiting an African-American player, do they immediately go, well, what about that one time? Or do they realize, oh my gosh, I'm being possibly recruited by Oklahoma State? Let's say they don't have a ton of other huge offers, and they go, Oklahoma State's possibly recruiting me. Does that kind of take a back seat, and they think, you know what? And maybe by that time they've heard more positive news out of the university that there's been changes among the team or whatever too. That's kind of what I'm wondering too.
Well, and here's the thing. I think we also need to keep in the reality of this is it's not like Gundy's going out and recruiting every single one of these players that he's the point man. Like he's usually just the closer type of guy. So a lot of and that's what I would I'd argue against Tom's comment about well, why'd Chuba come back if this is maybe it's just Gundy that they've had this issue with. Maybe because that's the thing is the story I wrote back actually would have been right when the pandemic was really heating up. Spencer Sanders, do you know who he was recruited by? The point man in his recruiting process?
Who's that?
Casey Dunn, the wide receivers coach, because that was his part of Texas that he recruits and whatnot. So that's why Spencer Sanders actually loved the promotion of Casey Dunn to offensive coordinator, is because their rapport goes and it's built while he's here. I mean, I remember Casey Dunn talking about how he's that Spencer Sanders has come over to his family's house and they go fishing together and they spend a lot of time just chatting and whatnot. And that was before Casey was promoted, and Spencer said that it started from when the recruiting process. So that I think the biggest thing is Gundy going the presence of this current situation going to affect the coaches, the assistant coaches who are doing the heavy lifting right now in recruiting when they go in and people start asking about Gundy and about this stuff. That's I kind of in a way I agree with Dion's comments yesterday on Robert's show. Of ultimately, it's going to be the players that kind of dictate how the recruiting goes, because if you see Chuba Hubbard, by the opening weekend saying that things are changing, but they're not changing fast enough, anything like that. As an incoming guy, that's what you're reading more than Gundy saying whatever he's saying. Yeah,
I think a lot of it will hang on that. If players do come out, even if it's a game or two in, when they're inevitably asked about all this, and they say, yeah, we've seen changes. We're happy with where things are. And by the way, it's translating out there on the field. Then future recruits go, well, okay, that's fine. But I would be really, really surprised to see very many African-American future recruits say, well, I just can't play at Oklahoma. I mean, I personally, I would be shocked because I know.
I think here's the thing. We also have to think this time last week we weren't thinking this was going to be a conversation.
No.
I mean, if more stuff comes out, one way or another, that could change opinion as well.
Yeah. And,
so I'm not going to say it'll never. I mean, it's there's a possibility that something could come up because again, we didn't talk about it yesterday. I didn't even see about it until later in the evening. The Alfred Williams information that came out on Wednesday, and is still kind of lingering today of how Gundy was accused of using a racial slur as a player and stuff like that. And I mean, the longer this news cycle goes, the more that those recruits are going to absorb news-wise and create their own opinion, to where even if they hear, well, things are changing, they're still going to, first impression leaves a mark. That's the thing we got to keep in mind.
Yeah, it does. And maybe there will be a ton of weight to hang off of what players ultimately do say about this season. It's definitely possible. But I do also think it's important to point out, like what Dion said yesterday, hey, I still love Coach Gundy. I loved everything he did for me there when I played. And a bunch of players have come out and said that. He's a great guy. He's a good coach, and he cares about his players. So don't get this picture for people looking into Oklahoma State like, oh, my gosh, who they have hired over there. Hey, he's actually not that bad of a guy according to a lot of players. So maybe that's...
I will say, the one thing we need to keep in mind, though, is a lot of the guys that Roberts had on were guys from 6, 7, 8 years ago, longer than that.
Yeah.
We live in a totally... And I'm not just saying just over the past several months. We're in a totally different society, basically since Trump was voted in. And that's that's easy to see when you see... old ladies, videos of old ladies all over social media weren't willing to drop the N-word or attack black people just because they felt empowered because the president essentially does that. And I'm not saying Gundy's shifted with it, but I'm just saying that's a possibility. People are known to change, especially when you follow political views, and because that's, again, 4 years ago, I don't remember Gundy speaking a lot of politics. And now that's a good portion of his conversation with the media is politically based.
Yeah. Let's see if it ultimately does affect recruiting. I know there's going to be mixed opinions on it. I'm still on the idea that I don't think it will be very impactful. But like I said, who knows what could happen between then and now. When we come back, hour number 2, we'll talk about Major League Baseball. it has been an absolute mess. We talked a lot yesterday with Dan Buffa. He gave some great insight on it as well. But
and COVID news isn't helping.
That's kind of what we're going to get into. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse for Major League Baseball, it did. We'll talk about that in hour number 2.
Now I hit the scene, they like lights, camera, action. Living in a dream, now my music, they be blasting. Step out, I'm a star, always in the latest fashion. Had to set the bar, try to catch me lacking. Bank account for my son, he won't have to struggle. You can see it in my eyes, all I do is hustle. They tried to knock me off my feet, I'm ready to rumble. Felt like I ain't ate in weeks, working off the muscle. Oh yeah, oh my, we ride for my brothers, no lie. Never wrong, they right. I ain't changing my side, yeah, we in it for life. It's magic. With the gang, we ball out, it can get tragic. All we got, we gon' let you have it. Stuck in my ways, think I need to change my habits.
Welcome back into the Afternoon Sports Drive, hour number 2 here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. So we round out your week. You're in the right spot. Man, you know what's been crazy about baseball, Major League Baseball, is that it hasn't been so much like week-long, drawn-out scenarios. It's been like every day it changes, at least recently. We haven't been sitting there for a long time really at a week like, well, we're sitting here at this proposal. No, it's been pretty quick response to the proposals. So that's at least kept it interesting, but at the same time just as frustrating, because it was 2 or 3 days ago now, 2 days I think, that we were like, oh my gosh, the framework's there. Like, we're getting closer. That was the announcement. You know, even all the writers were saying we're this close. Yeah. It's going to happen. Then that evening, the players like,
well, this time last week, we were talking about how the players are saying we're not doing anything. Tell us when and where, and already we've bounced back a couple times between this since then.
Yeah, that's what it's like bickering children. I'm done talking to you. Well, 5 minutes later, they say something else. It's literally how it has been. Players have done it. Owners have done it.
Well, that's what I find funny and kind of hypocritical. And, you know, I get Tom's argument of, well, players are getting all the money. They're trying to get all the money they can get. But you literally said last weekend, you know, these are our demands. Tell us when and where. And they give you basically all the demands except for 10 fewer games. Yeah. And then suddenly it's like, no, we want more. It's like, no. Yeah, you said when and where.
That's where I'm kind of peeved off with the players too right now, is when they gave that ability up. We have to remember, Rob Manfred said he was ready to almost implement that 50-game season. So to me, when the players said, do that, basically, tell us when and where, they were going to be fine with a 50 to 60-game season there. So why, when they put out that number, it's all of a sudden not good enough? Because they're like, oh, well, they actually officially proposed it, so now we gotta go back on it and deny it. 65 games is a perfectly even split in this situation. If the players want 60 and the owners, or the players want 70 and the owners want 60, why can't you literally just meet in the middle? You get 5 more games. Owners won't be happy about that, but players will. And owners have already proved that they're willing to sacrifice a little bit here, right? Willing to do full prorated pay here. So if I'm the players, if I really want to play, which I don't even know if anyone does anymore. Yeah. If that's the case, then I would be jumping on those 65 games.
Now, I saw a story, I think it was yesterday, that it's something that hadn't been really talked about from the players' rebuttal, you know, their return of their side of the argument. Is the potential of allowing ads on uniforms. If it was a 100%, the owners can take all the money that's for the logos, for the advertising on the uniforms, that the players don't get a single bit of it. And their argument was, you know, 70 games. Would you say that it's on the owners now? But if the player said, yeah, you can put ads on the uniforms now, but we get a 50-50 split because we're wearing it, then it's like, oh, well, then you are literally just finding more ways for you guys to make money.
Back where we started.
Yeah.
And then what I read, too, which kind of muddies the waters even more, was that apparently when Tony Clark, who represents the players, sat down with Rob Manfred for those 2 hours and talked, well, then you get a bunch of reports that players said they didn't even know that was happening. So I can't believe that Tony Clark was out there talking. We didn't tell him to go do that. So he went out there and they kind of almost came to that agreement. And the players, apparently, some of them were like, what? We had no idea. But so that's where you're like, now you're telling me that you can't even communicate between the guy that represents you? I don't know whose fault it is there, too, but it's like, wow.
Players are starting to show dysfunction, for sure.
Oh, yeah, they are. And maybe all of that has to do with not – I mean, let's think about it. They're conditioned to be playing baseball right now at a very quick pace, day after day. And they're having to experience a completely different basically the opposite of that. To make things a little worse, I guess now, the Phillies and the Blue Jays have both effectively shut down their training facilities, both with positive cases being shown. Well, the Blue Jays had a guy with symptoms, they said.
Right, symptoms, yeah.
Hadn't tested positive for sure, but they went ahead and shut down. The Phillies did have, I think, 5 total.
5 players, 3 staff members.
Okay, so 8 total.
8 total, and then apparently, according to The Athletic, there are currently 32 other players and staff members who are awaiting results.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, if the Phillies get those 32 and they're like, oh my gosh, 32 more positives. My thing with it is this. I guess there's a silver lining to still possibly having a season and right now not having a season. Again, it comes down to if we catch these positive cases now and we ultimately do have a season, it could actually be a good thing that they caught them now. And by the way, otherwise wouldn't have caught them because a lot of them are asymptomatic too. So when you think about that, there's probably a lot of positives, no pun intended there, that come from it. I don't really. There's a bunch of people saying, "Well, we got to shut the season down and all this. Now this is the last straw. We can't. There's no way we can have a season." I don't really know if that's the case. However, I do understand why they're jumping to a conclusion that equals got to shut down facilities at least and all that. But it's not like they weren't prepared for this. We have to remember that too. But it does throw, I think, a little bit of a wrench into the plans because they were hoping for, I think on that last proposal, it was we want to start July 19th. That'd be a month from today. We want to start. Well, then you got knocked 2 weeks off for these guys that are testing positive here.
Yeah.
So, and then that's a significant number. I mean, I'm telling you, when it comes down to everything involved between money. And oh, by the way, I thought we were done talking about it being a health issue. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was all of a sudden a money issue this whole time. Oh, well, by the way, the coronavirus still exists, and we got players testing positive.
Yeah.
It's been the big. I'll say this, and I asked Dan this yesterday too, and he kind of agreed. The worst back and forth. And not only that, but it might have the most long-lasting effect, negative effect on a sport that we'll ever see.
Well, and keep in mind, you're talking about the threat of possibly not even worth playing now, with all these players starting to come down with it, goes right back to college football. If the MLB ultimately can't get going because even though they agree on numbers and X amount of players are coming down with it, and you got to shut them down. Those are adults. They don't, what do you do then as a college when you have the responsibility of a whole bunch of student athletes? Because that's the thing. I'm going to be curious because we can all say, well, these players want to go play. Well, what if mom and dad call up and say, hey, I'm a little worried about you playing. Maybe you need to rethink that. That's the thing. It's not like with baseball players and basketball players. Like, okay, I'm my own man, or maybe I talk to my wife about it. It's like a lot of these football players, a lot of these athletes in college, still they're calling mom and dad on the daily, talking about things. And if the conversation comes to is like, grandma's not, she's high risk. If we want to come see you, but you can't come see us and this, that, and the other. I mean, there could be a possible, I don't want to say revolt, but college athletes saying, why is it fair for pros not to risk their health, but it's okay for college kids to?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a compromise somewhere in there though between, for instance, parents and players and all that, where we do realize that the majority, if you don't have an underlying condition, we're probably going to be okay. So I think that and what we have seen too is some of the players polled and all that say they would be fine even playing without a vaccine and knowing the risk. And I think we have to put that in there too. I think the majority is going to say, and they have, we want to get out there and play.
But and that's where I find the insanity of it, that they're not even playing for money.
Right, and that's the crazy part about it is that you see the love of the game there, but yeah, we can't find it in adults in different leagues. It's really unbelievable. Let's go to the phone lines. You're on the afternoon sports drive. Go ahead.
Hey, you guys are probably talked about this, but I just got off work and tuned in. What did you guys think about the comments from Vernon Morency, and do you think that's true as far as the effect on recruiting going forward?
Say the name again. I didn't hear you there.
Vernon Morency, the tailback, from back when I guess he was here when Les Miles was here, and Mike was the OC. And he was saying basically that this is going to hugely negative affect recruiting.
Okay.
But he was the OSU tailback toward the end of Les Miles' time here while Mike was OC here.
Okay.
He said he's had a good relationship with Mike back then, but he was saying he thought that going forward that recruitment was going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of exactly what McMillan, we talked about earlier, the Alabama linebacker, had said as well, which was he thought that it'd be tough for instance, for Mike Gundy to go into the house of an African-American family and sit there and tell him to come to Oklahoma State. I said that I really, and kind of Jason said it too, with for instance, what Dion said on the show the other day on Robert's show was, a lot of it's going to hang on the players. If we get 2 games into the season and let's say the Oklahoma State's 2-0, doing really well, and the players inevitably get asked about all that's gone down here, how are things going in the locker room and all this, and they say, well, it's great. We've seen changes, and by the way, it's out there on the field. We're winning games, and part of it too. Then you're going to have really, I don't think, any issue with recruits. Now, will there be the occasional recruit that is still going to maybe be offended by everything that happens? Sure, but I have to believe that the majority of them really aren't going to be that much, I would say, that affected in terms of not wanting to come to Oklahoma State because they realize how prestigious of an offer that really could be.
I just want to real quick, because I hadn't seen this yet, so for anybody listening, I'm assuming you're talking about the quote from the Tulsa World where they Morency's Facebook post. It's quote, again, this is from Morency, quote, "This is the death penalty for Oklahoma State in recruiting. I guarantee we'll have the most kids in the transfer portal next year. Over the last 8 years, no one has fought harder for Mike Gundy behind closed doors than I have when the powers that be wanted him out. This is absolutely insensitive and absurd. No black or brown parent in their right mind would allow him to sit on their couch and try to recruit their child to Stillwater. He clearly has no clue about the culture or just doesn't care," end quote.
Wow.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Again, that's huge, because this is... We've heard a lot of former players that knew Gundy, or that played for Gundy, who have been very positive about Gundy, and this is one of the first ones that I've seen of basically saying, I mean, he's essentially saying that if I had a kid, I wouldn't even want Gundy on my couch recruiting him. That's impactful to hear it from a former player, in my mind.
Yeah, and a former player that supported him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the interesting quote. Over the last 8 years, I've been defending him against the powers that be, because we know how much he and Boone, Mike and Boone, did not get along very well. So that's a pretty big power for Morency to have gone to bat against, and now he's basically turned away from him. That is interesting. I had not seen that yet.
He says that he guarantees he'll have the most kids in the transfer portal next year. I don't see that. I mean, I get where he's...
I think it's going to depend on how much change they see.
Yeah, I get where he's coming from, but when we've already seen... And this was even when Gundy put out the initial response was just to himself. When he had that apology, we saw, almost every player come out and say, that's my coach. That's a coach I want to play for. I support that. I don't think that's going to waver unless we just hear something else come out that's just another bombshell of something that he's done or said.
What do you think about the current class, though? I know they just got a verbal from the 2 twins that are receivers, but I guess that's more of a done thing. But, I mean, there's some things in the program they can sell, like the old line coach having his marriage is biracial. Yeah. So there's the number of black coaches that we have at OSU, and in fact, we have a black head coach in basketball. So as far as that goes, I think there would be positive things to spin as well.
Right, but that's the tough thing, and I think Morency's kind of pointing out is well, yeah, you have the position coaches, and that's the thing. A lot of these guys are recruited solely by them. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the head man that's going to be in charge of the growth of your son is Mike Gundy.
True.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah, I can see both sides of it.
Right.
But what it would really take, I believe, truly, is we would have to have some sort of something else happen mid-season, which, by the way, if that were to happen and Gundy were to either wear something else or say something, I have to think he's walking on eggshells throughout this whole season, at least if he's smart.
Yeah.
That's what he would be doing.
Do you think he's going to be given the leeway of giving his little post-game diatribes, this is what I care about, Twitter is, or saying, Twitter users are just there, which is funny because he says, Twitter users are just 30-year-old people living in their parents' basement, yet it's his leading rusher and star player who uses Twitter to start this whole situation. Do you think he's going to, from that regard, and again, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, and I know a lot of OSU fans will be against it, but do you feel, since you're talking about him having to be on eggshells, that he's going to have to be careful with creating another national clip?
Now, yes, because, and maybe in the past, yeah, but it probably wouldn't have been lasted as long and also been not that impactful, maybe, would just been like, another Gundy thing, But now, yeah, because I think he's also realizing, whether he realized it before or not, and you and I talked about it, we just know that this generation, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times is they just run to Twitter or whatever, social media, and without thinking about other ways to go about it. So, I think that he realizes that's the case more often.
Here's the thing we need to keep in mind with Gundy. If we can just go back a couple of short years ago, where he basically targeted a former player who's transferring out in Jalen McCleskey, basically saying that kids nowadays that are wanting to leave are snowflakes. Well, you talk about insensitive. Well, a lot of the players that are still on the team are friends with him, that were friends with him and stuff like that. And then not only do you get that, but then the following day, you basically threaten the media, not allowing the players to maybe make comments on their friend that Gundy just called a snowflake. Like, I mean, he has controlled the message all the time, and maybe that's some of the stuff that the players are talking about with change again. But that's the fascinating thing is, like, he has controlled, been in everything that's come out from the program over the past really 10 years. He has had the entire control of until now. And will that be enough to truly force him to change and allow? Because that's the thing I found interesting with the first take comments from Chuba, is he basically made it sound like we want to be allowed to use our platform, which made me think, were you not allowed to then before?
Yeah, or in what way? That's the. I think that Gundy now, in this situation, I've said it before, but it's true, he's going to have to adapt a different style of coaching. I mean, is that necessarily fair? Maybe not. I don't know exactly how he coaches behind closed doors, but does that mean that he can't even, and I'm saying this just in his own fear of backlash, be as hard on some of the players as the right word, or as straight to some of them, be like, look, you're not doing your job here and whatever, and all it takes is for someone to get on Twitter and say, you should see how he treated this person today, and that's it for him.
And that's the scary thing as well. If I'm a fan, I'm looking at it right now with clearly players are some players, again, I'm not saying all, just to clarify, I'm not saying all the players, but clearly some players are disgruntled right now, and when if things are still kind of in the air and you're still slightly disgruntled, when you have your first practice and he gets on you, again, we're in a generation that they're willing to talk back, or they're willing to say, you know what, you haven't changed and I'm out. Like, that's where maybe that's what Morency's saying is a lot of these guys maybe aren't going to support Gundy now when he's trying to give advice or be a coach, because they still are disgruntled by what's going on. That's what's going to be fascinating.
That's why I think the contents of the meeting that they had as a team were probably so important, because he knew at that point, after Chuba had tweeted that his grip on that team had immediately slipped. He was slipping on his grip in the locker room too. It's like, where do I stand now, and how do I balance that out?
Yeah.
Because something tells me, And this is how I would go about it. If I were in Gundy's shoes, yeah, I'd be kind of walking on eggshells at the same time. But I would coach my way, okay? If some player got upset because I got in his face for not doing that and can't realize that it has nothing to do with race or anything like that, it has to do with your performance not being up to par to my standards, then that's their own problem. But at the same time, he has to weigh that now because it could come off, if that player goes to Twitter, it could come off as, oh my gosh, he's done something.
Yeah, and that's why, again, I've seen national people. Obviously, I'm glad the caller directed us to the Morency quotes. I hadn't heard those yet.
Either.
But that's the interesting thing is there's a lot of people arguing that not necessarily that Gundy needs to go because of what he did, but almost a sense of how as a coach of recruiting black players, of coaching black players, can you successfully move forward from this? Like how is that going to be possible? And I think it's a valid question.
No, it is. And that's why I think what it would take really is someone like probably Chuba to get the whole team together and say, guys, and especially if they see the change that they want, guys, we got to get behind our coach right now because he's our coach, and we have a chance, by the way, to be really successful this year.
But here's the thing: we haven't gotten to talk to any of the players since the pandemic started. Mm-hmm. We don't know what their opinion was when Gundy came out and said, "Yeah, we need to get them on the field because we need money."
No,
in the state,
we don't.
Like, I mean, that'll be interesting to see if that is part of it as well. If because that's the thing is, we don't know. That's the thing. We can all assume what everyone right now looks at it as. Oh, he's just upset about the T-shirt. We don't know if it's more than just the T-shirt.
That's why I think the work in progress comments shook things up a little bit more too,
because it made it sound like it was before the shirt.
People were kind of thinking, well, does that mean that it was never that great, even though he's been vocal that it's been fine, or that something happened that we don't know about that kind of pushed it back a little bit in terms of positivity in the relationship? Could be either one, really. We just don't know. But I would, and I kind of agree with Tom on this point. I would have to think that, and I know how you think about it too. But if it were that bad, I just think that we would have heard it somewhere. Maybe not directly from Chuba's mouth, but there's a lot of players on that football team, and they have a lot of eyes on Coach Gundy and Chuba Hubbard. So I think that something would have come out had it been really awful,
Well, but at the same time, again, you go back to what Chuba's comment. Keep in mind that all of the comments he's been saying is he was tired of people's actions not having consequences. So maybe other stuff has been addressed, whether they went to coaches, their position coaches, or have gone to Gundy previously. That's the interesting thing. Again, I think. And again, it could be just some of the boneheaded comments that he's made that made national waves, saying basically stuff like, our players need to get out on the field to get the economy going in Oklahoma. If I'm a player, I'm saying, okay, you're just using me. Like, I mean, that could be some of it as well. So, again, I don't think we're ever, and as much as Tom and other people want to know what pre-existing situations there were, I don't think we're ever going to find out. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, just like we never, as much as fans want us to know and find out what specifically injury-wise is happening to a player, it's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We never find out.
Football teams are very good, especially football teams, are very good at keeping that in-house and quiet. They know better with all of that. When we come back, we'll keep talking football. We'll get into the National Football League. Could Colin Kaepernick make a return? Oh, boy. We'll discuss about that next. Welcome back. Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. Friday afternoon, a rainy Friday. It's rained all day here in Stillwater. Much needed, though, so definitely a good thing. The NFL, it was actually a big week in the NFL. A lot of things going on. Jamal Adams requested a trade. He said, get me out of New York. Well, the Jets are really terrible anyways, so I get that. He put the Chiefs on one of his teams he'd like to go to. He put the Cowboys on there, the Texans. He wants to play for Bill O'Brien. Oh, my goodness. Oof. I don't know why.
So he wants to go to franchises that can't afford to sign him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's. I think, he's like, hey, we know why he wants to be on the Chiefs. And then he sees the potential in Dallas, and I don't know what he's thinking with the Texans, but other teams that I'd go back and look at. But yeah,
maybe he's originally from Houston.
Yeah, might be. I mean, ones that he knows,
right?
Though that he's also just like you said, there's no way they could ever sign me without selling the farm. So yeah, he's ready to go. That's the one news story. The other one, Deebo Samuel with the 49ers breaks his foot. I think yesterday, and just practicing out there and in his own time, and then broke his foot.
The entire team's been practicing, actually.
Right, yeah.
On their own, yeah. But yeah.
And it did say that maybe he'll be back by the beginning of the season, probably a week or two in, though, is more likely. That's a big blow to the 49ers. It really is. That dude tore it up. Even in the Super Bowl, he had a pretty good Super Bowl, especially
when
they
damn jet sweep.
Yeah, they started
That's all they were doing. That's the only success they had.
When they ran the jet sweep a couple of times to start off that game, and it was like, we couldn't stop it. Yeah. It was like, seriously.
And that's what was funny. Like the commentators saying, obviously the 49ers have a great run game. It's like, no, they have a jet sweep game.
This dude is lightning fast. He's a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big blow to San Francisco. So those two news lines came out of the NFL, and then. We talked about yesterday.
Real quick, while we're talking about the 49ers, do you think they can repeat what they did last year?
No. I said it last year that this was just one of those seasons.
Yeah.
But they benefited from a schedule that wasn't that tough. I still don't believe Jimmy Garoppolo is that good of a quarterback. Yeah. I mean, he's middle tier.
Because it wasn't until the final month and a half of the season that they actually played playoff teams.
Yeah, exactly. They were beating teams that they should beat.
Right. And now that they won their division, they're going to have to face better competition in their schedule.
And they were running over teams that they should be, too, which does happen when they had a pretty good run game at the same time. Like, they were facing defenses that were going to allow that. So they took advantage. That's why I give them credit, because they did what they were supposed to do given the games that they were given.
Yeah.
But when it came to clutch time, when it came to in the playoffs, when they barely skirted by, and then they got into the Super Bowl, they didn't utilize their biggest weapons enough. And to me, that was with a lot about Jimmy Garoppolo not being as good of a quarterback as some people said he was. Because you're telling me they couldn't have got George Kittle more involved in that Super Bowl? I know everyone's like, well, they did, but they got called on that. That penalty was real. We all know.
Yeah.
But they could have got him more involved. Emmanuel Sanders could have done more. And we all remember the throw that Jimmy Garoppolo missed that he should not have missed that may have swung the game big time at that position had he made it. So I think a lot of it rests on Jimmy G's shoulders. He's an average QB, has some good games at times, but this year we're going to see the 49ers, not saying they're going to go back to their old miserable ways, but maybe middle of the pack in a much more wide-open NFC. Continuing with the other stories, Colin Kaepernick got approval from not only Roger Goodell, but President Trump also said he would be okay if Kaepernick got another shot. I was actually pretty shocked to see that. Because
he's going to kneel, and maybe that's why he's wanting him back, because he can then create a firestorm again, saying don't kneel.
He already
just in time for the election in November.
He already said that he's not watching if they kneel, which everyone's going to kneel this year.
Yeah. And real quick. I saw something that I would be fascinated to see what the reaction would be, because their complaint with the kneel was the national anthem. You're attacking the country, the military, all that stuff. Well, it was a European soccer team. Both teams and the officials I think it was earlier this week, right after the opening whistle, all took a knee.
Yeah, during the time that the game had already started.
During the game.
Yeah.
If that happens in the NFL, where they just do it during the game, The opening, like whoever takes the field first on offense, if the entire team kneels, both sides of the ball, both sides of the field, benches and whatnot, what excuse do you have at that point of disputing the protest?
I think what would happen though would be Roger Goodell saying, okay, that's enough. Like, we gave you, like, we were against it. We said that before, but since now we've been open about it and we're saying, fine, we encourage it, and we're giving you the opportunity to do it before the game, and let's say that they don't do that, like you said, then I think he almost steps in and is like, well, but we gave you that opportunity.
But here's the thing. We've kind of already seen something like that, and I'm just talking about with soccer. It was a tribute we saw after Kobe passed away, when players to start a game paid tribute with the 8-second clock and 24-second violation. I don't know if the NFL, if you're saying we're okay with protests, if that's all it is, if before the first snap everyone kneels, so it's not impacting the national anthem, because that was the whole argument last time, was just because you're attacking the flag, you're attacking the national anthem by doing it then. If you're doing it on your own time,
well,
how can? Well, no, I'm just saying, like, if you're doing it to at the start of the game, that's it. It's not like you're doing it every drive or whatever, but you do it right then, the very first offensive play. Well, and can fans at that point then complain?
Here's why they would. One, well,
I won't say it. I won't say it. Yeah, go ahead.
But one is, and I've said this, I don't really necessarily, I never said that I disagree with why they're doing it or maybe even how, but I did disagree with them doing it because, let's be honest, they're at their job, okay? I've always said, that's why I had an issue with when Kaepernick did it, was like, but he's at his job doing this. Like, if I came in here and started protesting, they'd have the right to fire me. They did the same thing. They have the same thing in the NFL, any job. You have your First Amendment rights, but when you're at your place of employment and you have a boss that tells you what you can and can't do, well, that boss has the right to fire you if you do what you're not supposed to do, which technically could have happened, right? It could happen to anybody in the NFL.
See, at that point, the game wasn't being played.
Right, no, but they were at their job. They were there. Right. They weren't doing it yet, but they well, maybe they actually were.
But do you also know the significance of that? The fact that that for the longest time, because we got to keep in mind, NFL or at the college level, we're probably not going to see that, even though I'm sure you might see something from the players, but they're not out on the field during the national anthem.
That's why the
NFL instituted that, I think it's been 10, 15 years ago now, because of, they basically made a deal with the U.S. military of, we're going to recognize, we're going to have the flyovers and all this other stuff. So the whole argument, to me, is almost a farce of, well, he was doing it to disrespect the flag. Well, technically, them standing on the sideline is all for PR anyway.
Right, and what the thing is with that is when Kaepernick actually did talk about what it had to do with the flag at that time. Now, it may have shifted, I don't know, but he actually did put that into words. That's why I see where people are like, well, it's more than a flag. Yeah, but he did do that for a reason during that time. But when you look at, like you just said, how college football players aren't out there during that or whatever, I actually saw that argument being made that if the NFL wanted to avoid some of the kneeling, they would do that. They would just have the players not come out during the national anthem. But I still think even if that happened, you'd see maybe during on the field they would do it. To that point, to your original question there, are you saying that that NFL teams would, when they got out there after the kickoff, about to start their drive, and then you're saying that all of them kneel before they snap?
Yeah.
So technically it would be second down when they got back to starting?
I'm saying, like, not even before the snap. I'm saying, like, after the opening kickoff, or whatever.
Before they go
you snap, before the
play clock would start running, right?
Right. But so I'm sure if you're protesting and if that's important enough to you, a 5-yard penalty to do that is nothing.
See, I don't. I think that there'd be teams that'd be like,
that's the difference between us and these players.
Right. Though. Are you really going to be like?
Because keep in mind, And the NBA players didn't mind doing, basically taking turnovers to pay tribute to Kobe.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference in a turnover in a basketball game and starting 5 yards back for some teams. If they have to start a 1st and 15.
Think Patrick Mahomes really worried about first and 15?
No, that's why I said some teams.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes isn't worried about it, but Sam Darnold might be. Okay, so it's that type of thing where it's like, thinking from a football
and that's
standpoint.
the interesting thing, because we're already seeing a lot of people. Baker Mayfield's already come out and said he's going to, again, we don't know how and when, but I mean, you're seeing a lot of people already saying, yeah, I have every intention of kneeling. And that's the thing, your argument of, well, they're doing it while they're on the clock. Well, nothing happened with the European soccer players.
Right, and it won't happen with the NFL when, again, they've encouraged it. But what will happen, and it did happen in 2016, this is why, as a sports fan, and I'm talking just sports, this is why I don't necessarily like it all the time, because when I watch a football game, want to watch football and be entertained, I can go to other places to see protest and political statements and all. I get why they're doing that, though. I don't need anybody calling me up saying, you don't support now. I get it. But also, when you look at it at this standpoint right now, everybody's going to kneel. Like, people have made that. That's going to be the thing. Ratings plummeted in 2016. The National Football League cares about ratings, okay? Especially when they've dominated. Because when all that kind of took a back seat, I remember when it did. It took a back seat, and then we finally had a week where we didn't really have a ton of people kneeling and was just like not talked about all that much. Ratings went back up. They dropped 19% in 2016. You're telling me
if you're talking about numbers, though, numbers are also there's a lot of polls out now where a lot of the numbers have actually shifted to where now they support. There was some crazy number of between 2016 and now of a massive jump of people who now support Black Lives Matter movement, who now go back and actually say they support what Kaepernick now did back then. So you might see a dip, but I don't think you're going to see as big of a decline, because again, it's crazy to think that, again, we're 4 years removed from that. But society's already, we're seeing over the past month, has already shifted drastically.
Yeah.
And I think you may see a dip, but I think it's also going to depend on if there's no butts in the seats.
Well, right.
Numbers aren't going to dip.
Exactly.
They're going to be up anyway.
That's what I was about to say is if, first of all, the reason they might not dip as much anyways is because people are like, oh my gosh, it's finally football. We haven't had sports in forever. Right. But yeah, also the not having fans
especially
there.
Especially college football.
Yeah. But that 19% did translate into hundreds of millions of dollars lost. That's why I think the NFL, Roger Goodell may be like, yeah, support it, do it, whatever. But he knows in the back of his mind the loss that could be there potentially is big on a sport that is surging and is kicking all the other sports in the butt in terms of ratings and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's why
I think with him coming out with that message, I think it was last week, in reply to the players doing their Black Lives Matter video, shows that he also understands, and again, fans are needed, but if I don't have the support of the face of the NFL, of a guy like Patrick Mahomes, we saw the story come out after Goodell's video. If you don't have Patrick Mahomes on the field because he's disputing what you as the NFL are allowing you to protest, I'm not turning in then.
Yeah,
like I'd much rather watch a peaceful protest of kneeling, whether it's during a this, that, and the other, than players saying, if we can't protest peacefully on the sideline, our protest is not to play.
Especially the NFL. I say that from a fan standpoint because you can't replace a lot of those players in the NFL.
We saw with the XFL, we saw with the AAF, we've seen the product drops drastically.
Yes, it does, and especially at quarterback.
Yep.
Sorry, but it just does. Yep. There's the occasional situation like Teddy Bridgewater, but other than that, last year there was a time where it was the year of the backup quarterback.
Yeah,
and we saw a lot of times like this is just not the level of football that we're used to seeing from these teams.
Matt Moore was valiant and won a game and kept them in the other ones, but I still didn't want to watch it.
I didn't either, and. And I wouldn't want to watch it for a full season. Okay?
Exactly.
So it's something that was like 2-3 games. This is tough, but I'll do it. And why? Because I know now that at that time that Patrick Mahomes was coming back, so it was going to be okay. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about if Kaepernick will even be on the team. We didn't get to that, so we'll get to that and round out the show here next on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Yeah, that's what I've been on. Yeah, that's what I've been on. Yeah, that's what I've been on. Yeah, that's what.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive, wrapping it up here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Jason Elmquist with you. We're talking football. Not just football, but this is football. That's one of my favorite bumps that I ever created. This is a football, man. It's a man sport. When it comes to football, Colin Kaepernick, just the name alone, can send people into a frenzy. Now,
both good and bad.
Both good and
frenzy,
bad. Yeah. Depending, yeah. You know, like I said, Trump came out and said if he's good enough, give him another shot. Roger Goodell said same thing. My thing that I've said this entire time is that I really don't believe he wants to play again. I'm being serious about that because look at
and I'm just clarify.
Yeah.
So do you think it was more of a media stunt when he had the availability last year?
Yes, I really do. And I'll get to that. He makes, I looked it up, net worth $20 million. Makes quite a bit of money.
Yeah, with that Nike contract.
Yeah, with that Nike contract. And, hey, he doesn't have to suit up and go out there and play. So I think that plays into it. Also, when you think about it, if he lands on a team, and he's not going to land on a team as a starter, he's going to be a backup, if anything, I would believe. Because, if he lands on a team as a starter before Cam Newton, that's where I'm going to start taking issue. Okay.
Here's the thing. I think there's two slight differences between those two, though. Right now is when Kaepernick left, he wasn't necessarily damaged goods physically. Cam's kind of damaged goods right now. So I can see, like, if I were a coach and if I was told those are my two options, I'd consider Kaepernick first because health-wise, I think I might have a better chance of getting a full season out of him than a Cam Newton.
Maybe.
Cam Newton I think has a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
But if I'm banking on, am I going to get an entire 17 games out of him? I'm probably banking on Kaepernick more than I am Cam right now.
The only reason I wouldn't is because he's been out of the game for 3 years.
No, that's fair too.
It's like, do we trust him getting into a game, being able to take hits? It's been a long time since that's happened.
Right.
So there's that too.
But that's also the same argument right now with Cam.
It is.
So,
he hasn't. It's been a while since he's been in.
Yeah.
Shorter time, but
and the interesting thing though is there is actually a team that has come out and said that he is on our emergency workout list, and that's the Chargers,
which kind of surprised
me. Of any team, that's one I can believe that he should probably get a tryout for.
You know why? It would put
because they have no quarterbacks.
Well, they do. Well, they just don't know who yet. But it would also put fans in the stands, I think.
Especially right now, yeah.
People
in the current climate in L.A.,
there would be plenty of people in L.A. that would buy Kaepernick jerseys.
Totally.
So
yes, from a PR standpoint, it would be smart as well. But I'm saying strictly from a playing ability, I would take Kaepernick. And again, I wasn't a big Kaepernick fan. I thought he was an overrated quarterback.
Yeah.
But I'd still take him in a slam dunk over Tyrod Taylor. Again, I don't know what
Justin Herbert.
I don't know what to expect from him. I mean, we've seen a lot of hit and misses when it comes to first-round quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at Baker Mayfield. So that's why, again, I think if I'm the Chargers, I wouldn't mind bringing in a Kaepernick if we think he can succeed. Give Hubert a year to learn under or just learn the NFL ropes.
Yeah.
And then see what he has. Because that's the thing is, even the best quarterback in the league right now didn't play in year one.
No, and people are realizing that's why we talked about it with Jordan Love is like, oh my gosh, it worked out so well for Mahomes. If Love does the same thing, who knows what could happen.
Right.
But also the Chargers, going into this season, they got to realize, first of all, they know who's in their division and who they're going to be chasing.
Yeah.
It's like we need to have a set in place quarterback that's going to get us some wins or at least compete.
Yeah.
I think it almost makes just as much sense to just roll with Justin Herbert and be like, what do we have to lose at this point? Or, you know what they're going to end up doing is probably rolling with Tyrod Taylor, getting behind 2 games and not being able to come back. That's why I think it's a mistake. So I understand, I guess, why they, like I said, why they would put Kaepernick on that list.
Would you rather, if your 2 options, okay, you have to have Herbert in the mix. If you were the Chargers, would you rather have Kaepernick and Herbert than Tyrod Taylor and Herbert?
Again, I really, if I'm thinking as a coach, I just don't like the fact that he hasn't been playing football for as long as he had. I think that's a huge issue.
Tyrod Taylor hasn't been playing.
No, but he at least has been on a sideline and all that.
And how effective does that make a player?
It depends on the player.
A player who was not very good when he first got in here.
Right. I just think there would be
I get the argument that he hasn't played in a while, but at least when he played, he was a heck of a lot better when Tyrod Taylor played. I will say that.
There's a lot of people who are better than Tyrod Taylor.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying is I get all the arguments you're making, but based on body of work when he did play, I would much rather I would take all the headaches that would come with Kaepernick than I would with that Tyrod. Like I said, Tyrod Taylor, I wouldn't even want him as a backup on the Chiefs.
I know, and that's
how bad he is.
That's why I didn't really understand how the Chargers, they came out and they were like, at the end of the season, they're like, Tyrod Taylor's going to be our guy. We trust him. I'm like, I just don't buy it. But if that's the truth,
now that the NFL's not blackballing Kaepernick, maybe that's why they're down for trying him out.
Yeah, it could be. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. You know that I don't believe he was completely blackballed by the NFL. I say that because when the
it is fascinating, though. Did anyone, President Goodell, players, honestly, ever say, yeah, he deserves another chance?
No, it is.
No one did.
It is. And I say that not completely, because was there a little bit of it? Probably, sure, because let's be honest, do franchises want that in the locker room with everything? No, they don't. Now, when we understand why, I get it. At least I do. But
now it wouldn't be bad, though.
Yeah, well, it's changed.
And that's why you're seeing everyone say, yeah, give him a chance.
We got to remember,
which leads to my argument that I think it was partially a blackball situation.
I'm not saying that it wasn't a little bit at least, but I don't think completely, because he turned down the Broncos offer. He turned down he asked for $20 million to go play in the AAF, which was ridiculous. At that point, when that happened, when they were trying to give him a chance, and he said he needed $20 million to play in the AAF, I was like, dude, this dude doesn't want to play. Then when he had the whole, like you talked about, set up the workout, acted like a child and changed it at the last minute, people were upset about that. There was, at that point too, it was like, this was a stunt. That's why I'm not calling Kaepernick hater, but I don't believe that he actually has a desire to get back into the National Football League. Also because
he's been a very good PR guy for himself, for sure.
How much of that dies down if he enters the league too?
Yeah.
Let's think about that. If he sits in a backup quarterback position and he's not doing whatever he's doing out in the streets right now, he just signed a deal with Medium. If he's not doing all that, how much does he think, well, it takes away?
Right.
I really think there's so many reasons of him not wanting to actually. Yeah. So we can talk about, yeah, he might get a shot here and there, but will he actually take it? If I were putting money on it, I'd say no. That's going to do it for us here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Wrapping up here the whole week. That's Jason Elmquist over there. I'm Patrick Wheeler.
Hopefully we can have a much more relaxing week next week.
Yeah. This
knock on wood.
Time heals all wounds, and this weekend's going to heal some wounds, I hope.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well,
with what's going on in Tulsa, who knows?
Yeah. Be careful. Yeah. Be careful around that area. There's a lot of people already there. Enjoy your weekends, everybody. Have a great weekend. That's Jason Elmquist. I'm Patrick Wheeler. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive.